Hello and welcome to the Answers Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. You know, I'm a huge fan and advocate for Andy Frisella and the Arte Syndicate. I've been a member for a couple years now. And one of the things that we talk about regularly as industry leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, etc., is core values. And when I get a request from a publicist about somebody to be on the show and I look at their website and core values pops up, I'm immediately hooked because I realize how important it is and how many people don't assign core values to their companies. So I'm very proud to introduce Carl Motter, who's on the line today. Good morning, Carl.
Hey, good morning, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being on the show. You know, I hopped on the Van's Kitchen website, and one of the first things that popped up was core values. And I was just so excited to see that because people don't get that. They don't understand how important it is to have core values in a company.
Well, Jim, we use core values to measure ourselves and each other. We call each other role models because we make egg rolls, so egg rolls roll, right?
Yeah.
But we actually have conversations every quarter on our values of humility, excellence, love, generosity, and authenticity. And we talk to each other about, hey, you didn't really show this value of authenticity, and here's some examples why. But more importantly, what we do is we have a program of high fives where we nominate someone for showing their values. And we really applaud that. And honestly, that's where we overwhelmingly live each and every day is hearing feedback live in real time with each other about how we exhibited those values.
Yeah. Well, so just for the audience, on your website, it says humility, excellence, love, generosity, and authenticity, which are all great core values. And I want to come back to those because I want to come back to Van's Kitchen and the egg rolls. I'm already excited about talking about. My wife's got an air fryer, egg rolls.
Perfect.
They cook great in the air fryer. But the other thing that struck me when the request came through about you is it said our egg roll guy. And I thought, well, I got to interview the egg roll guy. And you're somebody that said yes to a lot of things throughout your life. And I read some of your bio. Would you mind taking us back a whole bunch of years and tell us some of the things that you said yes to along the way that ultimately got you to Van's Kitchen?
Sure, Jim, I'd be happy to. It's my favorite and first story about my yes and why I'm here is how did I get here? So my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and my, at the time, fiance were all at dinner together. And there was another family that was with us, and they were kind of pitching my father-in-law like, we'd like to work at the company, and they left the meal. And me being who I am, I turned to my father-in-law. I said, I do a better job as a salesperson than they would be. And I just kind of left it there. So 2 weeks later, he calls me up and says, were you serious about working for me? And I said, well, no. And he said, would you think about it? And so we had a lot going on. We had applied for a loan from the Small Business Association to buy the building we're currently in. And I kind of turned to him and I said, well, how about if you get the loan, you'll need me. So I'll say yes. And if you don't, then you can't expand. They were kind of landlocked where they were at. But I said yes to the opportunity of being open to working with them. And that was the best decision I made early on in my life, was to really see the opportunities that we had to grow. And had I not said yes to that, I wouldn't be here today. Gosh knows where I would be.
I love how organic that conversation was at dinner with your father-in-law, and you saw a need there. And I don't know, maybe you wanted to warn him that there's much better people out there than the others at the table, and you could have been one of those people. I took a job the same way over dinner. I think a lot of times people miss those opportunities. They're not honest about their feelings or what they're hearing at the dinner table when you were honest, and look what it turned into.
It's true. The other thing that happened shortly after that was when I came on board, I'm thinking, all right, now I'm going to go off and be in sales. And he said, well, I would like for you to help me renovate the building. Mm-hmm. So I had to say yes to whatever it is, Mr. Van, that you want me to do. I'm happy to do it. So lo and behold, I was working like a general contractor, helping run the trades. And I ended up negotiating a lot of our contracts to buy the materials we needed, not on the spot, but to do a big purchase and then pull them out. So that led to him asking me to start taking over some of the purchasing functions in our company.
Mm-hmm.
As we were growing, our needs were growing. And again, I was never formally trained. I didn't go to college to be a purchaser, but I started saying yes, and I figured it out. And that challenge of, well, I can't do it, so I'm going to say no, I was more open to the, I'm not sure I can do it, but I'll give it my fighting chance, right?
Yeah.
And so I said yes to those opportunities. And those, again, led me to a different spot in my career. So 23 years later, I was the head of operations from the purchasing, sourcing, and food safety aspect of all the raw materials that came into our plant. So anything that was food consumed or touched food, I managed.
What, just for the audience, for my own sake, what was your Scholastic background before you got here? It sounds like you've done 3 major roles already without that being your background.
You're correct. So I got my degree in marketing up at the University of North Texas, but I happened to minor in purchasing due to one of the professors that I just fell in love with. And he taught me so many things, really how to do purchasing on a shoestring budget
Mm-hmm.
by using methodologies that you didn't really need computers for.
Mm-hmm.
So I said yes to a degree that I thought was going to help me in sales, but actually the classes I took in college as electives really shaped my career as a purchaser and sourcing expert.
Yeah. You know, I've been in kitchens most of my life, one side or the other of the counter there. And, you know, putting together what it sounds like you put together as a purchasing man for that build out, that's no simple task. I mean, where do you start at?
Fortunately, Mr. Van eased me in because he was kind of giving me little bits of responsibility at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Really where it came pivotal was asking him to let me take over the reins. Mm-hmm. And asking him to say yes to me, saying that I can do this. And it's really a full-time job. It's not one that we should split between us. Just let me help us grow. And he's our visionary. I was really more of the, I can get things done kind of guy.
Yeah.
So that's where I said yes to, I'm not a visionary. I'm not going to ever be the true leader of all things. That I had to say yes to who I was and understand my limits and understand my strengths.
Yeah, which isn't always easy to do either. You know, I'm amazed at this dynamic between you and your would have been future family in the beginning, but now your family, and you guys are all working together cohesively, it sounds like. Has there been challenges and ups and downs that you're willing to share, or ways to get through that?
Well, like any family, you end up with, you know, kind of the family dynamics. So mm-hmm. We're all sometimes loving, hugging, and affirming, and then sometimes we get in our disagreements. And I like to say that we really built around that family value, and we still live it out today. Now, our founders, Van and Kim, they've retired, and they're really more of kind of like our seats on the board. They're our advisors, they're our sounding boards. But my wife and I have been running the company since 2013. Mm-hmm. And but we continue to call this the family of Van's Kitchen. We call each other, in addition to role models, we really say that this is our home. And we chose the name Van's Kitchen because the heart of the home is in the kitchen still. Mm-hmm. We've seen that in COVID when that food became so important to connect. And I was happy to see at least people were sitting down at the dinner table again with their families, which we had lost a lot of. You know, your listeners may not know this, but in a lot of Asian homes, the meals are served family style. So I like to say I lucked out because I never have a bad meal anymore, because when we all order food, if I pick the bad dish, we all end up sharing it, but I get to eat all the good choices that everybody else made too. So, and all that kind of is interwoven into our DNA. But with all our role models, we still pray together, we break bread together, we eat together, and we put love in every bite for all of our consumers.
Carl, I don't want to divert too far from your story, but what you just said is probably one of the most important messages we can all hear in this country is pray together, eat together, break bread together. And, of all the bad things that came out of COVID and are still evolving, there's been so much good, like what you're just talking about, being able to sit around the table as a family. What types of discussions did you guys have during COVID and these challenges as business leaders all around the dinner table, but yet still being that family unit?
Well, first and foremost, Jim, we felt the responsibility that we were called to help feed the country. You probably remember, and so will your listeners, at the very beginning of COVID, there were runs in the grocery stores for not just toilet paper, which that one never really made sense to me. Why did we need toilet paper for COVID?
Yeah.
But it was the foodstuffs. And we answered that call. We talked to all of our role models and said, we've got to keep healthy. We've got to keep each other safe, but we've got to do the right thing. Like if you're sick, don't come in and spread it to everybody else. And our role models really listened.
Yeah.
We're a food plant. We couldn't immediately make everybody stand 6 feet apart because the amount of space we have between equipment, you just can't move them around.
Yeah.
They were built that way for efficiency. Every square inch of belting that we put our product on has to be cleaned. So if you have all this extra space, you're just cleaning wasted space. But our conversation, back to what you were asking, is how do we keep feeding the country? What do we need to do? Because we knew there were people out there that needed the food to show up each and every day. Kids were at home. People weren't going to work every day, and grocery stores needed that food supply. So we did everything we could to keep working to feed people, even our own families.
Yeah, sure. I love that story. So tell me about your products at Van's Kitchen. What makes them special? And by the way, talking about egg rolls or different funky foods or fun foods, I should say, that we eat, it puts a smile on your face and it almost takes away from the seriousness of the business side of it. But, egg rolls literally put a smile on your face when you're eating them. A lot of times I've seen them cut in half and you're sharing them at the table with your friends and your family and your kids. My kids love them. And it's, another reason why I thought, the egg roll guy, I'd love to interview this man. Talk a little bit about your products and why they're so special.
So, Jim, we make all of our products in artisan batches. So we start the day with fresh ingredients. We blend them up. We mix them up right then and there. We lightly fry them. We freeze them to lock in all the freshness and goodness that day. So really, when you get them at the grocery store, they're probably not more than a couple days old because in terms of lifespan, they've been frozen and it kind of puts everything in suspended animation. Mm-hmm. But beyond that, when you take all these fresh ingredients, you get the flavors, the nutrients, and you're keeping them inside. Our goal is to not let the oil that we fry them in get inside, so they're not greasy, they're not oily. They are really fresh, crisp, delicious. One of the things we say is it's a great way to sneak vegetables in a kid's diet, because if a kid looks at a cabbage, they're not going to want to eat that sucker, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But when we shred it up and mix it with meats and things, it's handheld for them. It's more approachable. And so they'll eat it, not thinking you're trying to give them all these icky vegetables. They're like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
And actually, I like to say even a lot of adults at work, it's like my dad's not a big vegetable person. And so we get him to eat egg rolls because it is pretty healthy for him. The wrapper's made with wheat grain, and it's really thin, and we make them ourselves. It's like made a day before we make the actual egg rolls. Because it has to have time to proof, to kind of crisp up. And then, like I said, we're grinding all the different fresh ingredients we make it that day. And what we make, we sell what we can. We donate any of the rejects. Both the role models can take them, and then we donate them to the local food bank. Because if we can't eat them because they don't look good, we we don't want to sell those, but they're still edible, and we want to share with those that are truly in need.
Yeah.
And that